So recently, I had done a video that involved using the RX 6400 AMD single slot card, no extra power needed. Drawbacks are, of course, that it has no video encoder. It does have ray tracing, only 4 gig of memory, not that fast, only on PCIe 4, which is 1/4 of the entire lane structure that should be able to be used in a long slot. Those are 16. I also did a video that concerned the GT 1030, which, even though it was in a great series of cards, the 10 series, it was that was the scrapings of the bottom of the barrel when it came to video cards of that time. The 1030 had problems because it did have 2 gig, which wasn't too bad at the time. It was a little bit budget. It was getting itself a little bit out the door, but it also had a problem of having DDR5 or a DDR4 model. I thought, why don't I try these two together? I know what you're thinking. You were thinking, what a great idea.
Don't be ridiculous.
You weren't thinking that. You weren't saying that. You weren't even that. You were like, what? Anyway, we figured, why not try both of these together? Because there is a tool out now called lossless scaling. Now, I have to tell you that this is, it's available on Steam for about $7, $7 US dollars. It might be a little bit different in your region if you were watching somewhere else. But this tool is for using 2 different video cards to be able to frame generation one to the other. So you let your main GPU do the work, and you let the secondary GPU handle the frame generation. Excuse me. You let the second GPU handle frame generation, so you get more of a smooth playback or a smooth experience, and a little bit better. Say if you're, 30 frames per second, you can increase that to, say, double, or in some cases you can get triple, quad, or whatever. There are a few things. I'm not going to go into a lot about the tool itself. You can look it up on Steam. Very good video library of some explanations and some features and stuff like that. And I was really impressed with the thought of trying to use this. Practicality? Yeah. Okay, now let's just say that it does work. There are some things that make this very, very difficult to set up. One of the things that they suggest is that if you are choosing to have the frame gen be, say, the lower card, in my case, the GT 1030, that was the one that always wanted to show up in whatever I was trying to play. So if I was trying to play Cyberpunk or Borderlands 3 or Monster Hunter Wilds. And those are the 3 games I took a look at, because Borderlands 3 is in on their videos and stuff like that as having a good increase. And I will tell you, the experience was pretty good after I figured out how to set it up. Cyberpunk, we had a little bit of a problem with, because even though Cyberpunk would work with a GT 1030, it kept giving me a ray tracing error when I tried to use the RX 6400. Now, the reason, it told me to use the latest driver. Now, the problem is I'm on the latest driver for AMD, and I had to do that because otherwise Monster Hunter Wilds wouldn't work. So while I could run Cyberpunk on the old driver, or I could have, it won't now. I can't back it up now for some reason. And Monster Hunter Wilds would not run on the older driver. I put it on the newer driver, the one that came out, I think, 5 September or something. And Monster Hunter Wilds will work. I'm horrible at that game, but Cyberpunk would not work. So that presents a little bit of a conundrum, and it makes it very, very difficult to test. What you have to do if you're trying to use 2 cards like this, the instructions for the lossless scaling tool say that you want to select the one that you want to do the frame gen for you. In my case, it's the GT 1030. What I had to do is I had to actually turn the machine off. I had to put just the AMD card in. I had to turn the machine back on, load the game at least once where it would see just the RX 6400 and not try to confuse it with one that would eventually be my display out. I would have to go ahead and make sure that I set it up like that where it was actually looking for that card. I'd have to then turn the machine back off. Now, I had to do this for both Cyberpunk and Monster Hunter Wilds. I had to turn the machine back off, put the GT 1030 in, turn it back on with the display going to the monitor, start the game, start the lossless scaling, switch the HDMIs because I had to go ahead. I was trying to also record so we could get something to look at. I had to switch those HDMIs so that the GT 1030 was now going to the original monitor that I'm watching or playing on, and then start lossless scaling. So it would pick up the GT 1030 as the one that does the frame gen, and the RX 6400 as the one that does the actual rendering. That actually did work. And in Borderlands 3 especially, it was a lot smoother. When I first tried to do it, it was trying to use the 1030, and we were getting like 11 frames per second. It was quite horrible. It was really, really a mess. The RX 6400 was a little bit better. When I was using just one card, I was on medium or just, and sometimes high, I was getting playable frame rates between about 40 and 60 frames per second. It wasn't too bad. When I was using the lossless scaler, it actually increased that. Now the raw the raw frames per second went down just a little bit, but it did increase, and it did feel pretty close to the same. I didn't notice a real big difference, and I even got into a little bit of a fight with the frame gen on. And even though it had been a while since I played Borderlands 3, and even though I was a little bit out of practice, and I was trying to pay attention to several different things at once, it worked out okay. It wasn't detrimental. I mean, it still looked pretty decent. I ran around for a little while in there. I played around with it, and it was a smooth experience. I didn't go and try to look and nitpick all the details because I'm not using very good video cards to begin with. But I didn't see a lot of difference in the way the games look, or the way that game looked, and it played pretty well. Now, before I did all the driver mess and all that stuff, Cyberpunk the same way. Cyberpunk actually it worked out fairly well, and I could see that. When I was running the benchmark, of course, the benchmark runs at the normal pace. It's going to tell you however many it actually rendered. It won't. But the frame gen, when I was trying to play with frame gen on, it was okay. A similar experience. Unfortunately, I don't have video of that because I thought I got video of that, and I didn't. What I do have video of is it failing after I updated the drivers. Monster Hunter Wilds, I'm realizing I'm completely horrible at this game, and it's one of those games that's probably not for me, but it was fairly smooth. Now, I think I put it up on medium. It started out at lowest, and I either put it on low or medium, and it gave a pretty decent boost, and it felt pretty smooth. I played around with the controls a little bit. I am absolutely horrible at this type of game, obviously. It's not, like I said, it's not the type of game for me, but it looked okay, especially for what I had it on. And yeah, as opposed to, or considering when I was doing it, I went ahead and the first thing I did was run a couple of the benchmarks where I was playing with the benchmark, and I wanted to see what it looked like with that frame gen on, the game's frame gen, without frame gen on, and then with using lossless scaling as a frame gen tool. Is this combination, well, I'm not even going to ask that because we know this is a horrible combination, but I thought maybe I would play with it and see. I think we're really, what is more advantageous in using something like this, or what is the best way to use something like this, is in, say, a laptop, where you've got a discrete graphics and you've got, say, the integrated graphics. You can have the discrete graphics do the actual rendering. You could have the integrated graphics doing the frame gen. And that might be, I think that's going to be my next foray into this, is we'll try that to see if it works any better. Using these two cards, first of all, they're not great cards. They are not, they don't pair well together. I will say that as well, because we've got an NVIDIA and an AMD, and the drivers, they try to conflict, and the game can't decide which one it's trying to use. So that is going to take a little bit of a learning curve. Now, I might play with this some more and see if it's something I want to try to, maybe revisit this. But I'm not so sure I'm going to revisit with these cards because it just didn't work out. This was a horrible idea. And if it weren't for trying to make a video out of this to see, okay, what were the last two video cards I did, and Do they do anything at all? I wouldn't have done this, but I'm glad. I'm kind of glad I ventured into this. It was only a $7 investment, and I could see where, especially if you're using a laptop, this might be advantageous or this might help. Am I that big into frame gen that I really care if I'm playing something on medium? Do I really want to try to play something on high, or if I'm playing on low, do I want to play something on medium or high, just to get a little bit, to look a little bit better when I was getting a decent frame rate before? Probably not. But it's a fun tool to play with, and I can definitely see where somebody would want to use this on, maybe a laptop, or maybe they've got maybe you've got an RTX 3060, and you're trying to get just that little bit of extra oomph because you're playing games that are like Borderlands 4 that might be struggling right now trying to get frames, or some of these other games. I figured I'd pick a couple that had that were established. I'd pick one or two that were established, and maybe with a little bit of ray tracing. In the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, it also has a frame gen built in that it adapted for the RX 6400, even though the 6400 is not supposed to. I don't believe it's supposed to have a frame gen capability. But yeah, it was a decent experiment. It was interesting. I think it can be a very, very useful tool. This was poor execution. We will admit that 100% and wholeheartedly. This was not something that anybody. This is definitely something that I had no business getting into. We'll just leave it at that. That's what it was. Yeah, the frame gen, the lossless scaling tool is available on Steam. Like I said, $7. Not sponsored, not anything. I saw a couple of videos. I was curious. I thought, well, I've got a couple of cards that I wonder if it works if I do this. The RX 6400 has its purpose. Not a great card, an okay card. For some purposes. This is not that purpose. The GT 1030 is also not for that purpose. But I can, like I said, I can see where you've got maybe an RTX 3060 and you've got another video card you want to try to use to help that. This isn't SLI, this isn't Crossfire, this isn't any of those. This is using one video card to render. The other video card using the tool will be to use to frame gen and for generate extra frames in between there to make the experience smoother. I used the multiplier tool. You can also use the adaptive setting that you can target a certain frame rate. I didn't try to do that because when I was playing around, I realized that on some of these I was already getting around 40 or 45 frames per second, and I was looking just to see if I could max or get over 60. And I think I did that most of the time, and it felt decent. But yeah, I maybe I will play around with this a little bit more. I don't know. Leave me in the comments if you think I should. But yeah, for the time being, I thought it was a decent experiment, and I definitely will try it on my laptop. But I don't know if I would try it on this type of setup again. Now we're trying all this silliness on an i5-12400 with 32 gig of DDR4. So I've got plenty of overflow if the VRAM isn't enough. A lot of these games will try to steal from system memory, and I don't think we'll have much of a problem there. It sounds good on paper. Yeah, maybe it's not always what it's cracked up to be. So yeah, that's it for this time. I was curious. I thought I'd try it out. I spent far too many days trying to play with this than I should have. But I got some meager results. I need to find out why Cyberpunk keeps failing after the new update, and why when I try to roll back the update it's not working. I'm sure there's something simple, but I will have to maybe go back and find that INI file and delete it and try to reinstall again. I don't know, or verify the files or something. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe just erase the save file altogether or something. I will go back and I'll figure out what the deal is. If I have any updates, I'll use it as a pinned comment. How's that? When I was trying to play it before, it was okay. After I updated so I could try Monster Hunter Wilds, it stopped. So I was able to get some results, but unfortunately I don't think I have them videoed. In any case, if you got anything out of the video, go ahead and throw a like on it, please, if you don't mind. If you're not already subscribed, please do. I'd love to see that. I want to hit 2,000, then 2,500, and 3 grand. We're just a little bit of help. We can get to 2,000 with your help if you're not already subscribed. If you don't mind, hit me up on the rest of the socials. Do not be afraid to do that. But if you don't do any of that stuff, if you don't like, subscribe, hit me up on the other socials or anything, I just have one favor, and I ask it all the time, but now It's a good time of year. Happy autumn, by the way. Yeah, just be kind to each other. Just be nice. Smile, wave, hold the door open. Good morning, good evening. Any of those will do. No, don't use them interchangeably because it'd be very awkward if you're telling somebody good evening at 6 a.m. Unless it is your evening. I mean, I'm off on a tangent. Yeah, you can see where my mind is right now. My mind is right where that GT 1030 left off. That is all I have for right now. So until I get myself into something I got no business getting into, and there's a lot of stuff behind me, that's all I got. So I'll see you later.